Hi, and thanks for joining us again for another episode of the Absolute Bookkeeping Podcast. This is one of our specials. Today, I'm joined by Marcus. So, Marcus, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and obviously who you work for and the role that you do with that company?
Absolutely, yeah. So my name is Marcus, and I work at Xama as head of customer success. So my previous experience has always been in that customer success space, for predominantly working with accountants. Did a little bit in NatWest a few years back, but my role was to basically help accountants adopt different software, and at the minute it's with Xama under the AML side.
So how did your journey begin with obviously working in AML? What made you sort of switch to support and work with Xama, supporting everybody, the bookkeeping industry, the accounting industry with AML?
Yeah, it's a good question. It probably wasn't something that I planned massively in advance. I think there was probably an opportunity that come up with the team at Xama about when they were kind of got to a certain point where customer success felt a bit more appropriate. A lot of the team are quite technical, and I think when it kind of evolved into a place where we need to add a lot more sort of maybe hand-holding or support for those firms that adopt new tech, or even just to kind of review what they're doing when it comes to AML. There's an opportunity there for me to come in and look after the customer success side. But that's really everything from sort of the sales element, kind of not that we do much in the way of sort of selling it necessarily, all the way through the customer success and a little bit of marketing and bits too. But I think it all was underpinned by that customer success type approach.
Fabulous. So if I can ask you, what would be the one word that describes your relationship with technology at the moment?
That's a good question, actually. That is a great question. I'd probably say excitement. I think is probably the word. I think I was going to say something a little bit more negative, but I think it's probably more excitement. I think before I was getting quite frustrated with certain things, but I think things like the use of AI in the right places has definitely helped pull together software that wasn't quite great into really good bits of kit. And part of it, I'm still a little bit hesitant to fully rely on the software. I think you should only really use it if it sort of powers you to do things a lot more quicker, a lot more efficient, not to the fact that you rely on it to then just do less or put less effort into the process. That's where I think it can become quite generic. And you see people on LinkedIn just knocking out very generic posts from stuff they spun up on GPT without much personality. There's nothing wrong with using GPT to write a post, but if it then strips out the value, there's kind of not really much benefit in that. So yeah, pre-excitement.
Great. So let's talk about your favorite. So what is the Apple software you simply could not run your day without?
I find it quite hard to answer this one, but I think for me, it's definitely Fyxer. So Fyxer, for those who don't know, is the email sort of management software. So it kind of helps you allocate or basically triage your emails. And it's also got quite a nice little bit of kit in there that helps you almost draft the responses based on your tone of voice and what you've sent before.
So how did you discover it? Was it sort of like there appeared and you thought you'd have a go, or was it something that you sort of was a game changer when you started, or was it kind of a slow burn? Because I know that sometimes trying something new can be quite overwhelming as well.
Yeah, exactly. I think for me, I saw it on Instagram quite a lot. I was definitely one of the ones that need a little bit of nurturing before I took the leap. Anything that's in your emails with AI, I'm always a little bit nervous. And then I did a little bit of research. I heard a few others mention it. I think Johan might have mentioned it at Engagey. I think he uses it too. And I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. Obviously, I had to bounce it off of Jacques internally. Obviously, we're dealing with lots of sensitive data, so things like GDPR and ISO and stuff is really important for us to make sure they've got decent controls, which they have. So from that perspective, it's good. Initially, I think for the first probably month or two, I wasn't fully convinced. It gives you like a couple of weeks trial, and I thought, you know what, I'll carry it on a little bit, but I think it needs to learn the way that you respond to certain people. Because my responses were very generic, and I almost had to rewrite every single draft that it kept spinning up for me. And then after a sort of month or two, it then become almost unbelievably good. I think in terms of responses that it's going out to clients now, I mean, for me now, I mean, I sent me an email last week saying that I was in the top 10% of all the users that send out drafts first time. Because they're such good quality responses. I got to tweak a couple of words, but apart from that, you can just send it out. So it's really clever. And also it's got a meeting assistant as well, which is also pretty useful.
Brilliant. So what's the main problems that Fyxer solve for you? Is it kind of like a time issue, or was it the amount of the quality of responses that you needed to do?
It was probably mostly around time. I probably get, they send me reports each week now, so I know exactly how many emails I get. I get around about 1,100 emails a week. Wow. And that's a combination of client inquiries, but also we got a support desk, and that'll send me a little email once that comes through. So I get a ridiculous amount of emails that come through from clients, which is a good thing, good problem to have. But it's a lot of responding, so that can do a lot of that heavy lifting for me. Then I'll just basically have a little inbox of all the responses. I can go through and just review them, send it out. So what can take 4 hours can take more like half an hour. So for me, I probably save 4 or 5 hours a week, I reckon, with Fyxer.
So how do you use it in your day-to-day workflow? Is it something that when you log on in the morning, you have all your emails already sorted for you by this app?
Yeah, it basically sorts it ongoing. So I definitely get a bit of there's definitely a pocket of accountants and bookkeepers that are very early morning. So I start at about 8:30, 9, and there's always a chunk of queries and bits that come in, and then they're already sorted. So I can then go through and just send those emails out, which is real nice. And then throughout the day, I sort of check-in points that then come in and just review the emails that have come through, and then just go back out to those. So it's sort of periodic, but it stops me from spending all my time in my inbox. Because before, where I had so many emails, I had to constantly chip away at it. Otherwise, I'd be here at sort of like 7, 8 o'clock at night. Whereas now, I can do it in little pockets, little bursts, and it makes it way easier to keep on top of. The other bit I've started to use too is the meeting recorder one, which there's loads of decent other options out there, like Fireflies, Otter, and obviously Vinyl being the new one for accountants and bookkeepers, which looks really impressive. But for me, it's just tied the two in together. They can sort my emails, and they also have the context from my emails and the meeting to then send the responses out. So it kind of made sense. But I imagine people like Vinyl will make a similar move at some point.
Yeah. So is there any clever automation or tips that you set up with it to make your life easier? Is there things that you can actually do to make it so much easier and bespoke to the individual people?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of configuration that you can do at the back end in terms of what types of emails you want replies to go to. If it's just those ones that you definitely need to respond to, and it will interpret it that way, or those that if you always like to respond to people to just let them know you've received it, you can do replies that way too. It doesn't send them out straight away. They draft it first, which is a bit of a nice kind of sense check that they aren't just firing emails out on your behalf. So yeah, it's that element of it. It also we ask you to categorize your inbox, so you can then put up little miniature, I think they're just called mailbox sections or something like that. But you'll have ones that are like to respond, some that are just marketing emails, those kind of things, which just allows me then to see 150 emails in one go and then just focus on the top 20 that I need to care about at that moment in time. That really helps. And the meeting recorder too. I scribble all sorts of notes all day long. Can I read them back after the meeting? Maybe half of it, because a lot of it's just like scrawlings and stuff as I'm going for the meeting. So it's good to have that meeting note there just to remind me of the key bits that I've mentioned and what I promised at the back of the call, just to make sure I follow through with that.
Do you think it saved you time or even keep your sanity? Obviously, you've mentioned that you have a high volume of emails daily.
Yeah, I mean, both of those two things. It saved me a vast amount of time, definitely hours a week, every single week, and sanity without a doubt. I think if I had to reply to 1,000, not that I need to reply to every single one of those 1,000 emails, but probably a good 500-600 of them a week I need to respond to, it would just make my life very difficult to make any progress in what I'm doing. So you almost get caught in that weird little cycle of just treading water. But now I feel like I can make good progress with that now.
Do you think there is some common mistakes when using this Fyxer? I know personally, I tried it and within 10 minutes of it, I turned it off. It overwhelmed me with trying to organize me. Do you think there is some common problems with using this?
I think there is. I think you need to just work with it for a little bit. I'd say watch a few videos and stuff if you can, to kind of get a few ideas of how other people are using it or some of their tutorials and stuff, to get a feel of how your inbox is going to move to.
Yeah.
I think if you're the kind of person that uses your inbox as like an ever-going like CRM type thing, that move from that into something like a inbox zero type approach is quite a big jump. So you might want to, for maybe like a few weeks beforehand, try and trim down that inbox, or at least sort it out in some way, so it's less of a leap. And then just give it a little bit of time. When you first see the responses come through from it, they're going to look a little bit pants. I'll be completely honest. They don't look very good. They're very one-liner, almost like back in when GPT first come out and that kind of stuff. And then once it sorts of lets you to learn your responses, and you have to, very much like GPT or any other sort of model, you have to keep teaching it. So for you to kind of delete that email and then resend another one, it's not going to learn from that sort of thing. So if you just edit the drafts and resend those out over time, it then picks up those changes. So I think a lot of it's just giving it a good month or two to bed it in. If you don't like it after that point, You've lost 30 quid. It's not a huge disaster. At least you've tried something. But at least for me and the others that are using it too, it's well worth the risk.
Perfect. If you had a magic wand and can change one aspect of it, what would you change, or would you need to change anything with it?
That is a good question. I think a bit more. I think sometimes it will assume a little bit, and I don't. Maybe it's just me not using it that great, but into assuming what emails should be responded to and which ones shouldn't. Because every now and again it will sort one out that subjectively to me I'll go, oh, actually I might want to just say thank you for that or something after the call, after they send the email through, like a bit of a just acknowledgement type thing. But that's probably more me just playing around the configuration. Now it's got the meeting in there. You can put scheduling links in there too. It's got all the email sorting. There's not a huge amount that I would change. What they've also got too, which I thought was quite nice, is like a little chat box, so you can query all the information that you've got from your emails and meetings, and then just ask it questions based on that data. I haven't really got a huge amount that I need to use it for right now, but I think in time it'll be interesting to see sort of trends over the last sort of couple of years of what question FAQs that I get, and then hopefully spin that into content, potentially at some point. But yeah.
Would you recommend it to kind of everybody in our industry, or is there certain types of people that it works best with, do you think?
I think it's a good question. I'd like to think everyone could use it, but I'm sure there's people that wouldn't benefit massively from it. I think if you get a lot of emails that you need to respond to that are very consistent in their response, because I mean, obviously it's got to build up a little bit of a bank of knowledge of what you do. A lot of my responses are obviously in the realm of AML for the most part, or kind of process related stuff. So a lot of it is very consistent with that. So it knows the responses really well. I think if you're dealing with stuff that's every day is vastly different from the last thing, it's going to take a long time for it to pick up that and learn from that. But I think with anything like accounting, bookkeeping, what we do, there's a lot of things that are incredibly repetitive. I mean, we were chatting about the Elgato Stream Deck beforehand, and they're sort of repetitive automations. But a very similar thing with this. If you've got a lot of things that are consistent and repeatable, you can often find a good solution like Fyxer or something else that can help you out.
Have you paired with any other tools to supercharge Fyxer? Like you say now, it obviously it helps with your recording of meetings and stuff like that.
Yeah, so, as in within Fyxer itself.
Yeah.
So the meeting recording is really useful. I've used Fireflies in the past.
Yeah.
I think Fireflies is slightly better on the response it kind of gives you out of that, but it's nice to have it all in one place. So I don't matter too much, and I'm also quite fussy with the way I like my meeting notes done. So I often play around with it afterwards anyway, no matter where it's done. But that's really useful to have that in one place, along with the emails and that little chat box to kind of query stuff.
Yeah. We're going away from that now. Apart from obviously Fyxer, what is your 3 go-to apps in your tech stack? And you can mention the software you work for now if you like.
Oh, okay. Okay, so my first one is probably, I use that one because I use it every single day, would be the browser that I use, which is called Arc. It's not one of those AI ones just yet. I'm not brave enough yet to take the leap onto one of those ones. But Arc is a really nice, it's ARC, and it's a really nice browser where you can, it's got lots of functionality, but it's easy ways to split screen. It's got keyboard shortcuts. It's every night, and this might scare a lot of people, but every night it wipes all the tabs that you had open previously, and then so you got a fresh thing every single morning. So you need to be a little bit. You've got to sort of be happy to lose tabs overnight. You can turn that feature off, but I quite like it because you then start afresh rather than racking up 1,000 tabs. So Arc's definitely one. The shortcuts are fantastic. You've got little spaces that you can do for different projects and stuff. The other one, I know a lot of people have said it, but I use GPT a lot. And I think for me, I'll probably maybe use it in a slightly different way. I dictate to it quite a lot. Yeah. So because I've got this thing in my face all the time, I can just sort of talk as I go throughout the day. Whether it be to write an email in a certain way, sometimes it's easier just to articulate things as you say it out loud than rather than typing it down. So I do that quite a lot for responding to emails if there's a certain way that I want to tweak it. I use that quite heavily. And the third one is because I got the opportunity to, I'll say Xama. I am in it every single day. Do I use it for my own AML? No. But I use it for a lot of firms to kind of help them out with just create a little bit of consistency in the way that they approach AML. One of the biggest problems I find with firms with AML is where it's so fragmented. No one wants to be non-compliant. No one intentionally does, in my opinion. But I think a lot of it, because it's such an onerous set of tasks for you to keep up to date all the time, where it's split into little pockets. You've got a spreadsheet for your training over here. You've got AML checks being done in the system if they're being done at all. You've got risk assessments in a Word document. To try and get oversight over that is so difficult. And one thing we're trying to do at Xama is to create a place where that sits all in one system. So audits become a lot easier. And for you to kind of have this, I suppose, the sanity that things are kept on top of, it's all in one place, which we find really useful. And obviously our integrations just help bed it into what you do from a workflow perspective too. So, but yeah, they're the kind of three that I would probably say, and a cheeky plug at the end.
Perfect. How often do you review or update your tech stack?
Or, for how much I probably preach about people taking time in picking apps in this space, I do spend a huge amount of my time looking up different apps and software that are out there. So a lot of it's on YouTube, so I kind of get new updates that are coming out, new people trying out different softwares and stuff. So I'm always kind of keeping my ear to the ground with what's out there, but I like to see it being used first by somebody and give me a little bit of feedback rather than me just sort of jumping into it. So if there's been sort of like some user generated content, you can see others using the browser, like Arc, for example, that worked really well. I tend to not take the leap first time, partly because if I'm using it at work, I need to make sure it's safe, it's reliable, and it isn't going to get me in trouble. So I need to make sure I kind of vet that before I jump in.
What is your advice for those in our industry at the moment who feel overwhelmed by all the software options out there? We all go to these events, we all see all these bright, shiny new products and tools that aim to save us time, enable us to grow our business, scale, but we do get overwhelmed with all the choices. What is your one piece of advice that you would give us at the moment?
I think it's a good question. It's really hard to, particularly with how good some of these softwares are at marketing. Like you can very easily get caught up in some of that hype, which I have plenty of times, even though I don't really use the tools. But I think for me, I would say to write down, don't worry about what apps are out there or what colors they are or whatever the thing that's attracting you to them. I think just write down all the tiny little and big problems that you've got in your firm, whether it's bottlenecks in processes, whether it's just repetition of certain things, whether it's frustrations with the speed of certain things, whatever it might be. And when you go to places like Accountex or go online or even use GPT to find certain stuff, just make sure they're eliminating a good 2, 3, 4 of those problems for you. If it's just sorting out one of those little problems, there's probably software out there that can solve 4 or 5 in one go. So just park that, note it down, park it for a second, but keep looking at other options out there that might solve more of those things. So I find so many people now that will see their biggest problem, they'll go and try and find to solve it, and they'll get that solved by one software, and then realize that problem wasn't actually a problem, it's a symptom of like 5 other problems that weren't solved. So they end up chasing their tail a little bit, and they end up getting 6 pieces of kit to solve one process, which probably isn't the most ideal or cost-effective way of doing it.
No, it's not at all. And I think sometimes they find out that maybe they haven't looked at the equipment they already use, the software they already use, because
100%.
it have that function already.
Yeah, a lot of it does. I'm guilty of that as well, particularly with like meeting software and stuff that I use in the past. I'll moan about it, but have I actually reached out to the support team and asked them if they can do it? No. So yeah, I'm guilty of that as well. Yeah, worth asking the question.
Yeah. Okay, so the quick fire round now. iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Xero, QuickBooks or Sage?
Oh, I'm going to say I'm going to use the software. I'm going to go purely on the people that I know are close to these softwares, and I think QuickBooks, I find I enjoy those people a bit more. Perfect. That might be controversial, but we'll see how we go.
No, I love that answer. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
What is the one piece of tech or business wisdom you wish you'd learned at the beginning rather than now?
Oh, that is a great question. I think business wisdom probably more so. And I think partly is a great question. I just think I'd say make sure that you can always look back and say that you've done the right thing at the time. I think there's a lot of things that you can do under stress or other sort of things. I think as long as you can look back and say that I did as best as I could do at the time, that with the resources that I had, I think you can be pretty confident moving forward that you're moving in the right direction. We grow and learn and we do different things, but I think if you can always look back and say at that time I did as best as I could do with what I had available to me, I think that kind of creates a little bit of peace of mind sometimes and just sort of removes that stress a little bit. Particularly with clients and stuff demanding a lot of things, you can only do what you can do. And there's no point getting overwhelmed by things that just won't matter so much in the future. So
no, Brilliant. I like that. My final question for you today. What app do you think is underrated and deserves a little bit more love?
Ooh, I think that is a great question. I'm going to go for the app space, and because there's two. I'll say one main one, but I'll be slightly cheeky and mention another. I think one is potentially something like Briefcase, in my opinion. I don't use it myself, and I'm probably a little bit naive with all the kind of nuances when it comes to bookkeeping, that kind of stuff. But I think the approach that they're thinking about that and giving you that control, I think, is amazing. And from what I've seen from the product and the team that I speak to there, I think is solid. The other one I'm going to be a little bit cheeky with it and just mention it too is Socket. I'm a big fan of John Gorn. I think the way that his brain works, I'm really interested in, and particularly the piece of software that he's making as well. It's quite a different approach to the way that workflows spin off the back of proposals. So I think he's done a really good job there. So those two, if I could be cheeky and say two.
Yeah, that's fine, because I'm a Briefcase user anyway. I have been for a long time. So
cool.
Yeah, 100% relate to that one.
Yeah.
No, that's brilliant. So thank you very much for joining today.
Yeah, thank you.
Fantastic. And thank you very much for everybody for listening.
Thanks, Ash.